Video too? Oh,
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Brave and Faithful podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Raiden Dinicio, and today I have another Navy veteran with me. He is a productivity coach and the founder of the Process Hacker, which we'll talk about that later on. Dev Chandra. I hope I got that right, man.
yeah, you got it right.
Hey, how's it going, Dev? How you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. So yeah, before we talk about what that process hacker, before you explain all that, can you just go over a little bit about your service, your time in the Navy? What did you do and how long you served for?
Yeah, for sure. I was in the Navy for 6 years as an officer, and I basically um, joined in college, and then I went to we have a school called ODS, which is like the summer camp version of OCS for like engineers, doctors, lawyers. So I went to that, and then I joined a command called Naval Reactors, and our job is to regulate all the nuclear reactors in the Navy.
Okay.
So 40% of the Navy, or large combatants, are nuclear powered. So submarines and aircraft carriers. So it's all headed by a four-star admiral, and we're located in DC. And so basically, you sign up for 5 years, and then for me the pandemic hit, and it gave me basically I just stayed on and did an additional year, and now I just got out in July.
Awesome, man. So you during your time in the Navy, you were completely in the sub?
No. So we regulate the fleet. So we're based in DC, and for most of our time we're in DC, and
Okay.
we're like the technical experts. So if so we each have a piece of the nuclear field, I guess. So my piece was like originally I did material science, and then I did spent fuel stuff in Idaho, and then most of my time I worked on nuclear reactor construction for a new aircraft carrier, and that was the John F. Kennedy. So that's CVN 79. So basically, what we do is we regulate. So we're the government representative to make sure that our nuclear technology is getting designed, maintained, built properly. So that way our fleet can have the ships powered by this amazing technology. And then,
Right.
yeah. So my piece, like most of it, like did project management, process improvement, really worked with our contractor, which is Newport News Shipbuilding in Virginia, to build the nuclear reactors that would go into this aircraft carrier. So it was a cool project. Definitely not on a sub, not on a carrier. I got to go on the ship for a week, but I wouldn't. It's a very unique job, so I wasn't really part of the fleet. I was Yeah, so it was more of a support role.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of like process improvements and things like that. So
Yeah,
I mean the transition to what you did in the Navy kind of
yeah.
was
So
very similar to what you're kind of doing now, right?
yeah, for sure. I think I left one piece out. So I also did congressional affairs for the last 3 years. So
Okay.
I worked for my admiral and did got like dabbled in like just politics and just helping the admiral go testify at Congress, which was kind of cool. So that was my last 3 years. But yeah, I the process improvement, process hacking side did funnel into how I started the blog and then turned it into a coaching business. That it's not it's still growing.
Right.
I'm not like it's nothing to live off of, but I know what I do. I can do a good job of it, and I know my clients that have worked with me are definitely succeeding, and we're doing great things. So it is a work in progress, and I'm excited to see where this project goes.
Yeah, so you mentioned when the pandemic hit, you kind of had like a year or
Mhm.
so before you transition out of the military. Um, you know, talk to us about that time as far as like, did you reflect on, hey, so if, with me getting out, like, what's my next step? Like, what am I going to do? Like,
Yeah,
how did you come about with, and then obviously the being, coming up with this term, like the process hacker.
yeah. I mean, honestly, the blog was more of a passion project. It was
Okay.
just like my way to review books. That's most of what I do right now, but also just talk about different productivity concepts like goals and making decisions and stuff like that. I honestly didn't think it would turn into anything. And for me, my main focus was like, okay, I was going to get out in 2020, and I did this awesome program. It's called 4 Block. So if anyone um, is looking for like to get their feet wet in different possible career options after the military, 4 Block is a great program. So I took that 12-week program. I got to explore like different companies, and I honestly thought I was going to go into management consulting. I also did another awesome program called ACP, which partners you with a veteran mentor. And he worked at one of the big three firms. And he basically was like, you need to go get an MBA in order to do this. So basically, my goal was like, all right, like I wasn't really thinking about the MBA as much. I think I was going to take a year off and travel. Like that's really what I wanted to do. And in that year, I was going to study for the GMAT and then do my master's and then go work as a management consultant, very uh, like normal type stuff post military, like going into consulting. But then, like you said, the pandemic hit and it just threw a wrench in my plans. One, like I can't travel the world, right? Yeah, you get to join the Navy to see the world, but most of my time was in DC. And I was just like, that kind of hurt a lot. I was like, all right, I was looking forward to going to different parts of the world and just go backpack and just enjoy a year off. So I had to figure out what I was going to do next. And so for me, one, I stayed in the military. So the Navy was really good about, hey, anyone who wants to stay for 6 months to a year can stick around. I was like, great, it'll give me some time to figure out what I can do. I can make decent money. I'll have healthcare, right? The pandemic was hitting. So it's a good option just to support the Navy as well as support myself. Then a bunch of MBA programs basically waived the GMAT and made it easy to apply to MBA school. So I was like, great, let me apply. And so I got into a school, Carnegie Mellon, and first year in the military, or I guess first that year in the pandemic, I did the first year of my MBA program. And then my blog started picking up traction. I started getting a couple clients. And from there, I was like, realized that I could make money from this project and we could just grow it. I could work on my MBA and then see where it goes. And so that's where I'm at now, where I just left active duty and now I'm, just working on this project, doing my MBA in the reserves and then seeing where it goes.
So how did like the blog, you mentioned that it was start off as kind of like a passion, right?
Yeah.
How did, and then now you got clients. How did that come about as far as like, were you just word of mouth, just telling people, hey, I got this blog or,
So
process
I
hacker?
mean, the blog essentially started from a breakup. It was like one of those things where um, my girlfriend and I broke up. She works as a humanitarian aid worker, so it like really crushed me. So she left to go to Africa, and so for me, I was like, had all this free time, I had all this energy, and people. I'm an idea guy, and I never really took action. And people were like, "Hey, you need to start doing something." My boss at work was like, "Hey, like you keep talking about blogging, you need to just do it." So I just
Mm.
basically had a website and I just started blogging on it. Like I actually bought a website and never really did anything, and then I just started writing about once a week, sometimes once every other week. And that's how it really started. And um, I guess I missed the second part of your question. I was like,
Oh, kind of just, how you started and how did you get as far as like your first few clients, how did that come about?
yeah. So I mean, Google has this awesome thing, and the one thing I've learned about anything is until you start doing it, you don't know what actually exists. So it's like I have no idea what's the point of a blog. How does it get discovered, right? Well, Google, what it does is it tracks all these websites, and it factors into the search algorithm. And so when you search for something on Google, Google has already compiled data on all these websites and it's trying to give you the most relevant answers to what you're looking for, right? So in order for you to rank on Google, you got to keep blogging
Hmm.
and you got to write content that people want to see. So eventually I figured out certain niches of content where people were looking, like one being entrepreneurial operating system, which is a like a structure that in a framework you can put on companies to help scale them, and then book summaries. So my book summaries in terms of productivity were also popular. And so Google started recognizing my site. And so I started getting more and more search traffic. And from that search traffic, and through I have a mentor that I work with, I got clients through that, right? So people would email me or my mentor gave me a referral and I would track down that lead. And those are the two ways essentially how I got a couple clients. And yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, just I think the whole point is if you have an idea, if you have some sort of goal, you never know where it's actually going to lead you if you don't even start, right?
No, for sure.
Yeah, so I think that's the hardest step, and the most important step is just the beginning.
Well,
Just
it's two things. It's first is starting, and then it's being consistent.
yeah.
And yeah, that's, I mean, you're doing this podcast. It's the same thing. Like, you probably sucked at podcasting the first couple of podcasts, and even then you're still getting better, right? And that's, my first couple of blogs were terrible. And even in terms of search engine optimization, in terms of, just, being coherent with my thoughts and whatnot. And eventually, like, I kept getting better and better and better. And even now I go back to old blogs and have to fix them so that they work for what my audience wants, right? And so over time, my blogs have gotten better, and people really like my blog. So for me, is if I can keep putting out content consistently, I'll get more and more eyeballs, and from there I can grow my blog even further. And then from the blog, I can get, people who are interested in my services, essentially. And yeah, so it's my lead magnet. I also tried Instagram, but Instagram has not been doing too good for me. So I've decided to only focus on the blog.
Yeah, definitely. Consistency is key there.
For sure.
Especially something like a blog, man. You gotta stay consistent with that.
Right.
Dev, so why focus on productivity? Like,
I think it was just something I was interested in. Right. I think from the Navy, couple things. So first, like, with the job of construction and project management, process improvement, there's a lot of things like I kind of wanted to do, and even in my job in government affairs, these initiatives I wanted to do, but I kept getting, like, hitting roadblocks. And so for me, that took me down a journey of just trying to figure out what exists out there. Like, how do people be more productive at work? How can I be productive at home? And I went on this journey to figure out, okay, like, how do I do it, right? And I read all these books, and then I started blogging about them. And that for me, it was just like an interest of how to optimize my life, and just how can I better achieve my goals. It was just something that was really something I really wanted to do. And then I got excited about it, that I started blogging about it, and now other people are,
talking about it.
following that same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So since you said you started last year during the pandemic.
So I started before the pandemic. So I
Okay.
started, I'd say the fall of 2019. That's when I started my blog. And I guess, yeah, we're at the fall of 2021. So it's been about 2 years of working on this stuff and just trying things, right? There's a lot of
Right.
things I've tried and failed at. And but yeah, I'm just gonna keep growing this thing and see where it goes.
So since you started almost 2 years ago, what's kind of been some of the challenges that you kind of face, and how were you able to overcome those challenges?
There's a lot. I mean, like, a couple, like, sometimes you lose motivation. Um, sometimes, so one thing, like, so early on, I tried to get leads through services online, like through people I met on Facebook or whatnot, and I kept getting scammed in the sense that, like, you'll meet contractors that are like, hey, we'll get you leads, we'll do things for you. And what's crazy about the internet is there's all these people that promise you these things,
Yeah,
that promise you the world, and then you try it and then you get burned. And that's
yeah,
happened to me a couple times. And learning that, one, you got to work, like, if someone hasn't worked hard for their money, then I wouldn't trust them. And then two, like, for me, I don't take on someone to work for me unless it's from, like, an official website like Fiverr or like Upwork or something like that, or somebody referred me to that person. Because it's just like, I think the trend is like, hey, that's why these networks exist in business, right? We have networks of people that we trust, because, like, you don't know who to trust out there. It's hard. So that's the first thing. The second thing I learned, um, or one of the issues I had is, so EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, it's a great framework. And actually, I know the author that wrote the books. So I know Bunker Labs is really big on EOS. Um, but the problem is, Gino, the author, sold the company. And so I blogged about a lot of their stuff, a lot of how the tools work, and the company didn't like that. And so they actually threatened to sue me, and were like, hey, and this is like at the time, Entrepreneurial Operating System was giving me the most traffic.
Mm.
Like my blog was growing super fast, and like people love my articles on EOS, and they were like, "Hey, you need to take these down." And that was where like half my articles at the time, and that like pretty much took like, yeah, you just lost half of what people are coming to your site for, at least most of it. And now you're like, for me, it was a point to be like, all right, well, I know how to grow a blog. We can find new topics. Let's keep going through this, even though because they threatened to bring a lawyer in and stuff. And I'm like, so that was one of those things where I was like, you should be able to blog about anything. But they were, they argued that it was IP in the sense that if I had to pay for their service to blog about it officially, and I was like, I don't want to do that. So,
Well,
you know,
because you were just talking about EOS, they said that they threatened to sue you.
yeah. So basically, the rule. So EOS, they have a book called Traction, great book,
Yeah.
uh, written by Gino Wickman, and it's basically you're allowed to buy the book and implement the system, right? Because the system helps businesses get, how do you set up meetings? How do you organize your company? How do you have goals for everybody, right? Just simple things. But once you implement the system, your company can take things to the next level, right? And so just implementing it on your own is fine, right? But you can also hire an EOS implementer. So it's the company's official uh like implementation coach to help
Right.
you implement the system. Now, with that comes perks like, oh, you can blog about EOS, you can use their content, all this stuff. But if you're not in that, if you didn't pay for that official coach title, right, they don't want you talking about their stuff.
Okay.
And that's like for most things, you're allowed to just write about their stuff and put it out there. It's not a big deal. You're not giving away the secret sauce, because the secret sauce that the person gives you is you're actually hiring somebody to full time help you put the system in place, where I'm just writing about it, right? And so they don't like that. And it's just one of those things where, most people were like, yeah, you should be able to blog about anything. I don't know why this is an issue. It's not like, so, it is what it is. The lesson learned is, hey, sometimes things don't go your way, and you're just gonna have to like find other things to
Right.
blog about, right? That's really the story is like, hey, just keep doing other things. It's okay.
So since you started the process hacker and blogging, we talked about the challenges that you face, but what about some of the kind of like the rewarding moments you've had since you started this blog?
I mean, just for me, it's been one, like it's been so I just I have a special way of taking notes about books, and just having other people be like, hey, like really like the content you're putting out. It's helping me learn this material better, and just stuff like that has been cool. Like just have random people on the internet tell me, hey, like your blog helps, right? Me understand something, and then I can apply it to my life, right? And so that's been super cool. And then um, just to seeing the traffic grow, just seeing that Google slowly month by month recognizes what I'm doing, and it's helping me keep on going, right? It's motivating me when I see the bump in traffic every month. I'm
Mm.
like, all right, cool, let's keep going.
So,
So
you mentioned about how you take notes whenever you summarize these books. Can you kind of share with the audience a little about that?
yeah, so I read a bunch of books. I read a lot of books, and a lot of the books do make it on my blog. Um, and so for me, like what I do is I like skim through the book, and I'll pick out the major like definitions. Like, so I'm big about definitions, right? Because I think one thing I've learned about through reading is everyone has their own names for things, and when you're trying to understand a concept, it's really important to understand those definitions, and then you can build on the definitions and figure out what the concept or the actual thesis, or like what the author's trying to say. And yeah, that's basically, I work from like, all right, what is the definitions, what is the book, what is this section supposed to be about, and I try to extract like the main ideas coming off of that that part of the book. And um yeah, and that's how I do it pretty much.
Okay. Um, so Dev, we might have some audience, somebody listening or watching this, that might be interested in starting their own blog or have started their own blog, but haven't really found that, haven't gained any momentum or any traction, right? What's one advice or actionable step that you can kind of give them right now to kind of help them move them forward?
Yeah, I think one, it's okay to not know what you want to blog about, right? So first, if you want to start a blog, just use your name. Like that's the biggest, like the easiest thing. So go buy a site with yourname.com. So
Right,
I
right.
have devchandra.com. I don't blog on that site. I blog on the Process Hacker, but that's the first step, right? So you have a place to blog, or you can even buy a free, I think Squarespace or some of the other spaces. Like you can have like a blog.squarespace or something like they'll, but you don't have your own URL, but you have it through the company. Next, what you do, or Medium. Medium is another site that you can sign up for, and that one is kind of like a social media site where you blog and then other people can clap and do all these things. So there's several ways to get started, and then from there, just write, right? So find a place where you don't have any distractions and you can focus and write, and just put a piece of content out per week, right? Now, a week is arbitrary. So something, maybe you want to write 2 pieces of content a week. Maybe you write it once every 2 weeks. The next step is to create a rhythm. So figure out what the best interval is for you to write. So one, have a place to write, have a place to write on. So the site, have a place to write physically. So where are you gonna write? The third thing is, how often are you going to write? So are you going to write once a week, twice a week, and then just start, right? And then over time, you're going to see patterns. You're going to see, oh, I really like blogging about airplanes, or I really like blogging about C++ or whatever, right? You figured out your topic over time, because the action of doing will cause your brain to put things together and be like, for me, it was like, oh, wow, I really like blogging about productivity. Okay, let me just focus on this, right? And then you'll get better over time, right? With anything, you'll be like, all right, let me start optimizing for SEO. Let me start putting it on Instagram. Let me, do these things to help my blog reach more people. So that happens with time. But first, you just got to get in the habit of doing it. And then you figure out your topic, and then you can, reach more people and stuff.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to and I think I just want to add on to what you said earlier, just now, is I think journaling. Journaling has kind of helped me, even though like not necessarily with writing a blog, but just kind of like writing my thoughts down and kind of getting that on paper, or if you have to type it on your laptop or whatnot. But I think to your point earlier, right? We talked about just starting and just staying consistent with what you're doing, whether that be, blogging once a week, every 2 weeks, however you want to do it, right? But just make sure you stay consistent with it. Yeah, it's gonna suck. Your
Yeah.
content's gonna suck in the beginning, because when you're starting out, you're not, that's
Yeah,
how it is. That's
you
just
just
how it
struggle.
is.
I mean, like, to anybody out there, it's really like nobody was a good like, okay, there's very few people that are gifted at podcasting or blogging, or um and even then, like, you could be an awesome writer, right? But if nobody finds your stuff on Google, then your stuff's not going to get seen, right?
Yeah.
So there's, and just like with anything, like even podcasting, like you could have a great voice. That doesn't mean you're good at producing it, you figuring out how to put it up and all this stuff. Or finding guests or whatnot, right? So it's really, you learn all those other skills along the way. So that's
Definitely.
the whole thing is, and maybe you find out in 3 months that I hate writing, and I'm like, great, you learned something, and then you find something new, right? And so
Definitely.
that's the thing for me. And this is the other thing I'll say to the audience: like, if there's something you really want to do and you want to grow a brand, whether it's YouTube or a podcast or blog, you got to give it 5 years. And this is like another rule that my mentors and other people online have talked about. It's, you got to do something over for a long period of time in order to gain traction. Because if you just do it for like a little bit and expect results, it's not going to happen. And if you have that mentality that, hey, I'm going to do it for 5 years, then something's going to happen. And and anyone who's been on YouTube for 5 years, anyone who's like blogged for 5 years, it's noticeable. Like they will figure out how to get traffic because over time you're gonna keep on improving, right? And so that's another thing that I would tell people. It's like, hey, you got to do something for a long time in order to build an audience, in order to have people look at your stuff and actually be good at it.
Definitely. And I hope our audience kind of take away from that advice, man. You gotta just start, stay consistent, and just stick with it. Just stick with
No,
it.
for sure.
So Dev, going into our second segment of our podcast here. So this is what I call the Fast Five. These are the
Awesome.
same 5 questions I ask all my guests. All right, Dev. So first question: what's one hobby you enjoy?
So I like everything outdoors. So just getting out, um, whatever. It could be scuba, it could be hiking. I just like getting outside.
Awesome. Second question: if you had to choose one person to hang out with for one day, who would it be and why?
So Elon Musk, and for me, I think he's like the modern day Leonardo da Vinci. Like
Uh,
he's going into he's building businesses that people would be like, hey, that's a terrible business. That's a terrible idea. Why would nobody's ever going to buy electric cars? Nobody's ever going to go to Mars, and
yeah.
he's just defying the odds in the sense that he doesn't care about profit at the beginning. He's just like, we're going to build autonomous cars that are electric, or we're going to go to Mars. And yeah, he's just going for it. So I just think he's an interesting guy.
I mean, that's what make people great, right? It's just like they
Yeah,
just think of what we think is impossible.
no, for sure.
Okay, so next question. Recommend a book for our audience to read.
Yeah, so I really like the book Atomic Habits, and this goes with the productivity theme. You can check out my website. I have a little summary, but basically, the author James Clear writes the best book on habits. So how do you build a good habit? How do you break a bad habit? Like what are methods that you can use to make a habit stick around for a long time? How do you break that habit that you've had for the longest time and you don't know how to get rid of it? So covers all that stuff. It's really good. Highly recommended.
Yeah, I love that book. All right, next question. What's your favorite quote and why?
So my favorite quote comes from one of my favorite podcasters, Jordan Harbinger, and it's "Leave everything and everybody better than you found them." And that's a sense like through every interaction that you have, like look for the good, like look to walk away from it, like saying that hey, you gave value, you were respectful, you could walk away with your head held high, and you didn't, regardless of what happened, it could be good or bad.
Yeah, I've listened to. I mean, I've listened to podcasts where he was a guest, but yeah, I got to check out his his
He's a great
podcast.
show. It's actually, yeah, I've met him in person. Really, he's the same on the show as he is in real life. Like great person. Yeah, it's an awesome guy.
Awesome. So Deb, final question here. Where do you see yourself in a year, 5 years, or even 10 years from now?
So in a year, so right now I've been with everything I'm working on. I've been traveling a lot and working remotely. Like I work on, with some clients, work on my blog as well as just, um, just traveling. So in the next couple of years, just traveling, seeing where things go. And then 5 years, I want to be established more so. So I'm in the Pittsburgh area and just getting into the entrepreneurial community here, helping out with local organizations like Bunker Labs or getting involved in like other entrepreneurial events. And then
Okay.
10 years, hopefully I have a family, we'll see, because I think, I want to have a family. I want to, the business is cool and all, but I also want to do other things. And
Yeah, you want to
um,
share all
yeah,
that with somebody.
yeah. And
And
I want to see where the business goes. Like I do want to, I guess also I have like tenants and property. So I want to keep on building my real estate and building my business. So yeah, just keep on those habits, right? Staying consistent and even throughout the long run.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
So Dev, man, again, I appreciate you for your time. Just one final thing. Where can they follow you? Where can they support you?
Yeah. So if you're struggling with productivity, I offer a free productivity guide on my site. So just go to my site, theprocesshacker.com, And there you can find, blogs. You can download my free productivity guide. And if you want to, get on a call, just feel free to email me. Yeah, that's the main place.
Awesome, man. And then we'll put a link to the site as well on the show notes. So
Awesome.
again, Dev, appreciate you for your time, man. And hopefully I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
All right, take care.